So I'm trying this new set of brushes by Brustro. It's supposed to be watercolor, gouache, acrylic and oil. Can be used for all four. And I'm going to figure out if they're good, if they're I'm going to see how it works for me. And to that end, I'm going to start today I'm going to do a landscape. I'm part of a weekly landscape challenge where we are often given references by whoever's hosting the week's references, and this week is a beautiful one of the four landscapes given are actually they're all from Switzerland, but this one is, it's a place called Thunersee or Thunersee, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's a lovely picture and I can't wait to try this out. So that's my reference. I'm going to give it a try, and I'm going to definitely try these Brustro brushes to see how good they are, whether I'm able to do what I normally do with my landscapes. Okay, so start off, I'm going to start with a pencil sketch of the basic shapes in my picture. Let me just, I'm thinking I should tape this down. It's going to look nice if it's taped. So let me pull out this. This is my blue pad, writing pad, and I'm going to place my paper on this. Okay, yeah, that's better because then I have the flexibility to tape it down. Taping down is a highly it's a personal choice really, because a lot of people I know do not like to tape down the edges. I think I enjoy taping it down sometimes not taping it down, especially if I want to give it, the edges are not required to be well defined. I don't tape it down, so I don't really have a preference. Sometimes I do like it. I like the clean lines. Okay, so I'm going to tape this down. Yeah, I think I tape down most landscapes I do. That's definitely, yeah, I have definitely done that a lot. So the taping down, I keep sufficient allowance. No, this is a little less, but that's okay. I'm going to just, this is masking tape. Masking tape works well only with 300 GSM watercolor paper. It does tear paper that's thinner, so just be careful using masking tape. It's excellent for the outline, I mean the border that you want, but it can tear. So one advice I'd give you about masking tape like this, that is quite has quite a bit of adhesive on it, is to let your painting dry sufficiently. If possible, let it be fully dry before you take it off. Wet paper at the time of tearing off can rip. Just advice. Yeah. I've ripped a few sheets. Let me be honest about it. Alright, so again, showing you my reference. This is my reference photo. I know it looks, orientation is slightly different from what I'm going to do here, but that's fine. You can change your orientation as you see fit. So there's my horizon. You need a horizon line for most landscape paintings, most. So with that horizon there, you have some sort of a castle is what I'm going to say. You may not be able to see my pencil marks, but they are there. And then there are these rooftops which are so cute. So this is a little bit out, and same thing goes here. So a little bit, some sort of markings like this. Okay. Okay. Then we have line over here which slightly tilts. So I'm going to show a little bit of a tilt here. That's fine. The window is more important. The window here is going to have a slight tilt, and the window here is going to be more flat. Okay, these are small things, really don't matter so much. Eventually the paint will go over it and you won't need to worry too much. You can get the details in later. Alright, then we have something happening here. There's a roof here and a roof going outward. Okay, so there's a curve here and then a little bit of the roof that you can see here. Little things, you know, this whole landscape, it's the little things. But we are going to go into only so much detail with watercolor, so I'm just keeping the main things to keep the landscape looking the same. Nothing more than that, because it's still going to be a little bit loose in style. Okay, so there's something leaning out in the water. Oh, wait a minute. My proportion's gone a little off. Never mind. That's the change I will have to make. Okay, so something out here and few edits. Portion here that sits over the water. Okay, and then there's this portion here. That has some sort of support in the water, and then there's somewhere here there's another building, or at least perspective for those of you who may struggle with this like me. Perspective. There's something tilting this way and going down. Okay, I'm going to keep it that way, then go up here, something downward here, and a little bit of this roof continues, this line of the roof continues here, going up again, somewhere at this level, the roof ends. Okay, so there's some sort of action here, something that goes like this, and at this point it is slightly turned, and again this has a nice conical shape. There are some windows here, put in a few lines, something below out here. What else? The building at the back. So building at the back comes to around this height. Hi Alka. Sorry, I didn't look at the chats. I'm so caught up in this. I love this reference photo, and like I mentioned earlier, I can't resist. I have to do this, so I said, why not do it on a live? Okay, and then you have this part of the roof with something sticking out, maybe something like a chimney, and there you go. Two windows out here. We'll add details there. Something here, something here. I think this thing has a little bit of a, I want to say spire. I'm not sure if it's a spire, but okay. That's it. Thereafter, we have this, in the forefront is this thing, this lovely thing. This is like in the foreground. So you want to capture the height. So I'm going to put a slight scribble of lines of, yeah, scribble. That's the word for it. Scribble. A little bit of a boundary so that I know where to, how high my leaves ought to be, my flowers ought to be. Somewhere here, somewhere in the range of this. Okay. Given that, let's do the horizon, what's left of the horizon. So somewhere here, little higher, it's my horizon. And then there is some mountain in the background. There are several mountains, so I can see one like this, I can see one like this, and that's it. I'm leaving the rest. Oh, there's a spire here. And okay, that's about all. Now the rest of this I'm going to just fill up with a lot of flowers. I'll fill it very loosely later. So this is it. Not much of a drawing, just a guide. Okay, I'm going to take the eraser and just take off all these extra lines. My kneadable eraser should be somewhere here. Here. So kneadable is the best. Takes away most of the lines so that only you can see the bare. Okay, let's become light enough. Okay, so that's it. My kneadable eraser has done its job. Now the first thing in this picture I will be addressing is the sky, because it's light, sea. My first washes will be around these things that are light. Thereafter I will go into the rest of the stuff. So let's see how it turns out. For this I'm going to start with, you know what, it's possible. The biggest brush in the set is size 10. Size 10. Okay. And I'm also going to activate a blue, ultramarine blue in my palette. Ultramarine blue. I'm going to activate it here. So I have cerulean blue on the side here, and I might just use the cerulean blue eventually for the mountains. So I'm going to keep that active here too. Okay, so cerulean blue right next to the ultramarine. And then I start with the water. So I'm going to apply water carefully to make sure that I don't really go over any of the buildings, because I really need it to maintain its light colors, especially the walls. The spires I know are dark, so those can be okay. Those are still okay if you decide to skip it, or some of the sky blue gets into it. It really doesn't interfere. The brown is darker and it will cover the blue that got over it. So there you go. That's all the water. Now that I have it wet, I'm going to go in with my ultramarine blue, which is usually darkest at the top. So I'm going to just put a layer here. Ultramarine blue. Ultramarine blue is a lovely color for the sky. I mean, not that we can not use other blues, but I love it for the sky, really. Now I'm not going to apply any more ultramarine blue. The max blue that I will apply is here, right here, at the top. Thereafter I'm just going to let it get diluted. I'll tell you why. Now in a lot of landscape paintings, flat brushes are excellent for this. Not so much round brushes, because flat brushes give you that straight line which is beautiful. Okay, so you can do this whole exercise with a flat brush, and I have to keep looking at the reference photo to make sure that I haven't lost track of anything. Okay, so it's really light at this point. I've gone over one mountain, but that's fine. Now what I'm going to do while it's wet, I'm going to take my tissue and I'm going to mark out the clouds. This is really fun. Dab your tissue to get some very vivid clouds. Be careful dabbing it along the edge here, because your blue can get on the walls. Okay, so here I definitely want to pick up almost everything. See, because these clouds are going up all the way here. See that? It may not look like much, but once it dries, it really will look much better. Next, let's go touch something that is not next to the blue, which means it'll be something here. So now I'm going with a little bit of yellow ochre, mild yellow ochre, very watery, for the walls. So let's start with the walls here. Okay, a little bit of yellow ochre here, and then all of these walls, yellow ochre here. Alright, here I'm going to go all over. Then a little bit of change of scene there. I'm going to put a little bit of grey on one side and put grey on these walls, because these are slightly different colored. Okay, slightly different, just to change the hue a bit. They may all be very similar colors, but I'm changing the hue. Okay, then we have here this bit over here. It's getting a bit dark, a light, just add in a little more grey. So I'm going to go over the walls and the and all of this here. There seems to be a lot of grey. Okay, done. That is the base. Okay. I'm going with now, and now I need to go with it's a nice color, but I'm worried that, yeah, it's maybe too wet for that. I'm going with the green washes. This is sap green. And what I'm going to do with sap green is I'm going to place it at places, leaving some white spots. So wherever I feel that there could be flowers, I'd like to leave a little bit of white space and apply a little bit of green. So there's that. a lot of this here, some here. Okay, some going here. Should have applied it after the blue on this side. Maybe I can do that, but let the blue on top dry. Here we have a lot of in between space. Okay. Note that I will be making some changes to the reference picture. It's not going to be exact, but it's going to look similar. Okay, that's that. So this part is abundant in green, so I'm going to just go ahead and put a lot of it. Yeah, right now it looks like a big mess. I know, must be thinking, my goodness, how will this even turn out into a landscape? Yeah, messy landscape. Few more changes. Now I need a little bit of cerulean blue, which I will put over here for the mountains. So I told you there's a mountain here, somewhere here, which is very gentle cerulean blue. I'm going to see if I can lighten this. Okay, something like this. Yeah, this is nice. Yeah. So somewhere here, there is a mountain. This is the lightest mountain. It's furthest away. After this, we have a slightly darker mountain below. Okay. Now I'm going to just hold off with the last one. Before that, we can probably get onto the sea or the water. The water is kind of grayish, so I'm going to mix a little bit of that blue into the gray that I had here. Yeah, this kind of a color, and I'm going to put it here at the base, right here. Right. So this water kind of shows up. Actually, this bit is going to get covered by it's going to get covered by the flowers that we're going to do later, so I'm not too worried about where it ends. But yeah, that's it with the water. What else? Yeah, let's go in with the browns. I'm going to take this brown. This is raw, I'm not sure, raw sienna, not raw sienna, sorry, burnt sienna probably. The burnt sienna will probably go here for these. There's a roof here. Oops. This happens. This happens to me often. A little color bleeds into a wet color, and I try not to worry about it. Initially, it's very hard to do that not worry about a color that's bled. But in the larger scheme of things, you start to realize it really doesn't matter. Base washes don't look impressive at all. I should tell you this at the beginning itself. Base washes really don't look impressive. They look quite rubbish, to be very honest. I have looked at many people's base washes and thought, where is this going? How will this even work? And it works. They're so flat, so unimpressive. Oh, I gotta be careful again. Okay. There's one here. That's it. And something sticking out here, but let me not touch that. Okay. A little bit of green into that color. I don't know why, but there's one spire that's a little bit greenish. Maybe I should take, yeah, there's another color here that's nice. Yeah, that's better. This color is nice. So there's a shape here, and this one goes up, comes down. Yeah, that should be better. Okay. So some shape. Next. What other base colors am I missing? I'm missing a color here for the green. There is a little bit of green here. It's darker on this side. Slightly darker here, greenish blue. Okay. And on the other side, it is light. So tap off some paint and you get a light version. Okay, that's done. What else? Any other base colors I'm missing? A little bit of orange out here. A little bit of that dark yellow here. What else? Alright, let's go in with the base bit colors of the flowers now that this is dry. There are pink and there are red flowers. So I'm going to start with crimson, which will give me the pink that I need. See? So I lighten this. It looks very dark, so I lighten it nicely. For those of you who don't know, watercolor lightens with water, not by adding white. Now, what you will see me do here is just like fill these areas with blotches of pink. We will add some detail a little later. Now everything is not pink, so obviously you have to be careful. There's a lot of this happening here. At the borders, there's a lot of this here. So there's pink here. I have pink here. Some pink here. Where else? Definitely some pink here. And maybe a little bit here. And some pink over here too. Oops, that's wet. Be careful. I almost touched it. Okay. I think the pinks are done. Now onto the red. Red is scarlet for me in this palette. Red is scarlet. It's a lovely different. It's completely different from the pink, and I will dilute it, but not too much, because really I don't want to make it too light. It's quite vibrant in the picture. We will add more details. So there's red out here. Space carved out for reds. Okay, all right. Then we have some here, and a little bit over here. Definitely some here. So more red. Okay, my tricky portion where it's still wet. Some red here. Into the water a little bit here. Some over here. And towards this side, I find that the flowers are a little smaller, so I'm just going to dab a few things here. That's it. Okay, base washes are done. I'm not going to do any more as base. Ideally, this should all dry. Oh, am I missing a little bit here? Yeah, I am missing something here. Because it was wet, I could not put this in, but there's a little color here. Alright, that's as far as base washes go. I keep saying alright, and then I find what I did not do. I find a mountain I did not finish. Alright, now it's done. Now, you really have to wait for things to dry. This is where I don't have the time right now to wait for things to dry. So I will start off with the things that are dry. For example, ideally, like I said, you would want to wait for the entire thing to dry, so that you're starting on completely dry layer of paper. But let's proceed. So what I have definitely seen dry are these walls. The walls are dry. So let's go in and put some detail to the wall. The same color as the wall that I took earlier, which is yellow ochre. All I'm doing now is adding more pigment and less water. Okay, so I'm not changing anything else. And with this, I am going to make a few darker sections to whatever I've painted. I will not darken everything. Okay, the light has to show. Just slightly dark. For example, this wall here is slightly darker than the ones in front. So, shading. Okay, then so it appears, if you look at the photo carefully, it appears as if it's a setting scene where the sunlight is hitting everything on this side, which means that everything in front of you is not facing the sun directly, which means it is going to be a slightly darker shade than all the walls that face the sun. And that's what you want to get out of your out of this painting here, right? So you want to get that shade difference. So for example, this face here is facing the sun, and so you're going to add some depth to this color here, to this wall, and everything on this wall also gets a wee bit darker, right? Now let's go to that tower there. That was a gray tower for me, and I'm going to go touch up on the same gray, not too much, not too dark, just a hint of darker shade on the wall. See? And by doing this, it's definitely going to look like a wall that's not facing the sun. See? Okay, I'm saying see, but I'm not sure whether you can see it. So let me, yeah, that's darker. So I have a wall that's darker. On this side, the same thing. I have a wall that's darker here, comes up to this point, and then it turns, the building turns. We also have a dark shade here because it's not facing the sun. All of this comes under some sort of a stone structure. So I'm going to leave that dark gray. Okay. It's a really evident stone structure. Oops. Look at that bleed. Look at that bleed. So if I touch this wall, it's going to bleed again. So I'm going to leave it. What else? We can do the same exercise with the roofs. So I go in with a darker shade of the same, I think burnt sienna or light red, one of the two, or a mix of both. That's also fine. And you can, so again, what I mean is more pigment, less water. Okay, so this is a side that's not facing the sun. Same thing happens here. The part of this roof that's not facing the sun. And I'm going to be a little careful because this layer here is wet. This continues all the way up to this point where the roof changes angle. Okay, so lifting off some paint so I don't have such a stark contrast. Yeah, okay. On this side, I'm just going to go a little lighter so that I can make out one roof from the other. Make out the difference between this roof and the one behind it. Now this entire thing is going to be darker, right? So I'm just doing it carefully because I have a layer of, yeah. Let's go for the top one. Same thing here. Okay, some darkness here. Good enough. There's something going up here. And finally for this greenish thing too, where I will show okay. And this one has a little bit of a line indicating there's one more turn. Should do, yeah. Coming together. Finally, the bottom one here also has a little bit of drama. Spire. And the little bit here, a little bit here. Dab off the brush and move it there. Anything else? There's something projecting here which I'm just going to use a different color to show. Okay. Now what do we have that's dry? Oh yeah, I need to put in that little black over there. Over here. Oh, that blue is not dried. Can you believe it? It refuses to dry. What else? Okay, we have some green. I have some green over here. Green windows. Okay, done. What else? I can add a few details around. If this is dry, this is not dry. If it's not dry, don't do it. And then there's a shadow on all the curves here, right? So on a line, then we have a little bit of darkness on this side, a line here. What else? Now it's mostly definition. What definition can you add? What you can add is a little darkness. Now under all of these shapes, there is a little bit of darkness to show shadow. So here, right here. Okay, so you can add that at the base of almost all the roofs because it's there. Dab off and just put in a bit of the shade there. Same way here, underneath this I see a darkness under all of this. Okay, I shouldn't touch this. Now there's a lot of definition around this area and it may be good to add that in while you have a spell of dry paint. Okay, so I'm going to add that in with the same brush. So I like the point of this brush. Very nice. Very nice point. It's given me a chance to do all these things without changing a brush. Some sort of a X and Y kind of, these kind of lines that add a lot of definition to the shape. Okay, I hope the blue is dried. Yeah, at least it's dry enough not to bleed. So I'm going to put this bit in nicer. I wanted a shadow here. I want a shadow here too. And some of the stone structure here also is dark. So I'm going to put that in dark. Okay. Then I'm going to put in some interesting brick-like patterns over here. This building has some very pretty brickwork that is visible. From a few places. See? And with that same grey, I can put in this part. which is like some sort of a window with details I can't really see. I just know the shape is there and I'm just maintaining that. That's all. I'm not going to worry about what it really represents. Just doing. Now here actually I need to darken this a bit. Let's leave that, it's still wet. What else can we do? I have to get to all this. But before that I can add some detail here. So there are some very clear lines. Very clear lines over here. Okay. With the brown, burnt umber, no, burnt sienna, and a little more. I'm going to start adding some. Roof definitions. Roof definitions are very nice. They really do make the roof look very roof-like, if that's a word. Okay, so here we have, in fact, we have a little bit of shading which we can show. Coming a little forward, see an action for this. Okay, so dilute that a little bit, a wee bit, just a wee bit, and apply it to the other side, because there is some line work here too. Okay, there. Roofs have more definition. Same thing over here. If it gets too dark, just dab it off on your rag and continue. Okay, this thing is still wet. I can't do much, so I'm just going to put this spire. Oops, shaky hands. What else? A spire here too. This brush is nice. I haven't had to change it at all. Very nice. Point is very good. I think the line underneath can be a little darker. definitely dark. Okay. So here there is some definition which I have not touched upon. Some sort of line work here, which I can go in with my orange and give this bit of shade. Yeah, a little bit of shade here. Same thing on this side. Yeah. What else? Even the green that we've put at the windows can get a little deeper. So on this side alone, just a bit deeper. See, I have to take a bit of black or dark brown and put some lines on this. So this has a clearly defined marking. Yeah. Oops. Did you see that? What a mess. I managed to get a little bit of my pink from my finger, my hand, sorry, and it's moved in here. Oh my goodness. Alright. That's what I get for painting while it is still wet. Here too, I want a little bit of darkness on one side. So I'm going to just put that line a few places here like this. This window is important. We have to get in some more detail like this. Same thing with this window here. There has to be some more detail. Okay. Now there's also a brownish line under this here, and a blackish line that goes over it. Okay, this just goes over. I see why I can darken this a bit. Yes, definitely darken this too. Not too much. What else? I think there's some stonework here which is nice. We can start adding that in, indicating that this is stone. Just go in with these same kind of brick-like shapes over here. Yeah. So when I put the black, it did look very dark at the time, and yet now when I look at it, it's not dark enough. That's what happens with watercolor. So sometimes you may feel the need to go in with more pigment to darken the areas that should have been darker. See? Alright, now on to my leaves and flowers. Second layer of flowers will be a little more defined, and here for this I'm looking at the picture. Very good point, Alka. Sorry, I did not see your message, but very good point. I'm so impressed because I'm still on my size 10, and I've been able to do a lot of detail with my size 10, so that's amazing. You don't always see that, so there's something of a shape to these leaves. These are very, very loose. You can see I want that light pink to still hang around. So you'll see me adding details, but just defining some petal-like shape. So I'm going to show some additional pink stuff happening here. As you can see, my pink has gone and done its own little bit over here. So the only way to fix these kind of things is to change the picture itself. You're going to have pink flowers jumping up a little more than needed, and that's fine. Same thing with the red. Concentrated red going in here. Yeah. Now the red doesn't contrast so much because my first application of red was already pretty dark. So you may not see the contrast so much with the red, but it's there. It's a cluster of flowers or something like that. So you can see petals, but you can't see how many flowers clump together to form this. That sort of detail is not clear, which is fine. So we leave that detail out and just show it representational of what looks like. But look at the point. I mean, Alka, if you're still here, the point on this is so good. Size 10, largest. So this set may have very the 0 or the 2 or whichever is the smallest one in this set, maybe actually very fine and nice for good detailed work if you ever want to do. almost at an individual level. You'll find me putting details on the flowers because they're in the foreground and I can see a lot of detail in the flower, so I want to kind of show that. And the few places where you might want to define this really well are these borders, the part where flowers cover up some part of your picture. So there is something here, something sticking out here. This is important because it gives you a nice feel that is more realistic. I'll probably use those words. Okay, flowers done. You can go on to the leaves. Now leaves are a bit odd. You can put representational stuff, not everywhere. Like you want to add these kind of shapes, okay, but at the same time you want to leave the spaces, the light blue, light green spaces. They're small leaves, they're not very big, so show them at certain places. Maybe closer to you, you can show them a little larger, but other than that, just sitting under these flowers. Again, this is where it's important. You can show some stem work, some leaves sticking out. These are important. Why? Because this is where you really observe the detail, where it is transitioning, what's covering up the background of the landscape is becomes the background, and this is the foreground. So you want to show there, you want to show some detail. The rest of it is just a blur, to be very honest. You want to show busy leaves, busyness in your painting, so add them, press down your brush a bit, and you can see what bleeding is happening here. Okay, I think the last bit of greens are going to be here. Just watch out for the pinks and reds that haven't fully dried. Being watercolor, you can take your liberties with the base. By the time you reach the base, you're really not worried about the definition of things. It could be just this kind of. You can darken this with a little bit of blue. Okay, and put them underneath certain places to indicate some sort of a shadow effect at certain portions, not everywhere. So only at places that you see too much of white, or you feel like there can be shadow under the flowers, that's a nice place to put your darker shades. I'm going to put some here. This play of dark and light is very, very interesting. It really adds a lot of depth where otherwise things would look quite flat. If your light green is still dry at places, there's a good chance for you to just let them merge the two greens and it will look rather, they won't look like separate colors, they'll kind of blend. Like, see here, they blend quite well. So here I'm going to just tap around at a few places, that's it. Underneath here, a little bit under these flowers. It's very easy to stop looking at your reference photo. So from time to time, make a conscious effort to look at your reference and see whether you want to add a few leaves here. Are they visible in your photo? It helps. There's a lot of lightness here, so I'm going to just address that. In fact, there's a little bit of a spot out here that's very dark. Okay. I'm going to go in with a little bit of my regular sap green here. Something's too light. And here, right here, this end, you can actually have big strokes that are leaf-like. Because now it's come closer to you, you can show the leaves with a little more definition, you know, leaf shapes and things like that, just to show that it's come closer and you know that they're leaves. Place it well under the flowers so that, you know, it takes the shape, it sits well inside of the shape of that flower. See, now there's a lot of white space here. So wherever you can cover up this white space with the blue, with the green that we're adding. Okay, now for a quick flick of the brush wherever you feel that the light green is too light. Okay, now some darker shades of that grayish green to indicate water. Water at a distance has these kind of lines which are closer together, and as they come closer to you, towards you, the lines start spacing out. So keep that in mind. They become a little, this is where you'll see your maximum lines close together. Okay, now on to a few more darker details, going in with black and brown. I want to add some detail here. Okay, there is some darkness here that I want to add. Then I'm going to go in and put the detail I wanted over here. So here, thin line and a thick line in between to indicate a window. Same thing here, thin line and a thick line. So the darkness of the window is really nice. If you could add that little bit, makes so much of a difference. On one side, just one side, you just have to see. And this brush is very thin and nice for this. Line here. Okay, I think we've got a lot of the detail in. What else? Definition here, maybe. This is not so well defined, so I'm going to put this down. What else? Some definition here because it's a balcony, and some lines and some sort of a window structure. If you want, you can darken that because really won't get seen otherwise. So this is same thing with this window here. I'm going to just put in a bit of okay, almost done. Alright, loose enough. Now at this point you can do a lot more, but also you have to end. So you might want to stop. Forcefully stop, because it can go on and on. Oh, yeah, we have one little portion there. Now I'm not going to be able to touch it. But I'm going to add a little bit after this has dried over here. And that will be it. Not bad for a loose illustration. Just a little more darkness there. Same thing for this end. Okay, so I'm impatient. I'll just check this is dry. If so, I can add this little bit sticking out. Okay, before I smudge things, let me call it an end and sign off. I'm going to sign off with a thin brush, really thin brush. Right here in the... So I've used a size 10 and a 0. And you have a signature here. There you go. Ha ha ha. A bit messy, Halka, but there's different ways to address the same thing. And I'm gonna have to look up how else I could have depicted the foreground flowers. The good thing about landscapes is that there are so many elements. You have to learn to look at it as a whole and not individual parts. I'll just straighten my camera so you can see that. There. See? Now once this dries, the colors will dull a bit. And then you may feel like touching up a little bit more. Like for example, the windows. I'm quite certain I will go back and touch it up. But that can go on, and at some point you have to, well, say stop. So I'll stop for now. That's what I'm going to say. I'll stop for now and call it a day. Look at it at a little later point and you'll get a lot of ideas even later on. You can add so much more to this. So take a break, rest your eyes, and oh, the verdict on the brushes, I'm really impressed. I'm very impressed. They are good. They really hold their point. So for the most part, if you noticed, I use the size 10, which is their largest, and I'm impressed. So maybe just as a exercise, I could take let me just... Oh yeah, I was always going to do this exercise. Let me just do this, because there's no fun without some brush work. So here's my paper, and I'm going to take I'm going to start with some pink. So it really does pick up a lot of pigment, gives me a nice thin line. Ooh, nice. Pretty, right? Very nice point. I like the point. And there's a lot of water retaining capacity. See? Very nice. Let's try a smaller size. Maybe a size... What was this? I like the color. This, I don't know, teal, turquoise. So 6. Let's go with 6. Ooh, you know what? With round brushes, what I like to do is test with some lettering, because lettering is so challenging with brushes. You have to really, I mean, it has to be a good brush that you can letter comfortably with. So let me do a little bit of lettering. Yep. Point is really good. Yeah. Alright, some lettering. Let's do watercolor. And this is like middle range thickness, by the way. There's one hair sticking out, which I'm going to snip off. See this one little strand? Strands like this can affect painting, and I would advise just snip it off, because yeah, done. See? Yeah, very nice. The AquaBloom. Brustro's AquaBloom. They were not very expensive. I don't have the cost here, but I got it on Amazon, and I like the point, to be very honest. But a lot of these brushes don't give you that fine point afterwards. And now with using this, I think the point is really good even after using. So, see. So if I can use a brush for lettering, then I feel like, okay, the brush is really good. See? A dirty red. Not bad, no? Yeah. So my verdict is it's good. It's definitely a nice set to have. Um, I'm going to paint a little more eventually with this and see whether in time, maybe in a few months, this point still remains. And if it does, yep, I'm all for it. Let me do some S shapes. So leaf strokes and floral strokes are the best to try out a brush. See? Quite nice. Yes. See you all later. Thanks for joining in. This was fun. I will, once everything's dry, I'll put a picture of this up. Okay? Bye for now.